Look, I did not set out to start a micro-family office. I just woke up one day, post-IPO, was a multimillionaire on paper, but I didn't know what to do next. I didn't have any systems or processes or really any strategy around managing my wealth. And then one day it hit me. Wait, here I am working in these startup companies and I'm setting a vision. I'm bringing together collaborative teams. We're solving very difficult problems and meeting a lot of business goals. Why am I not doing this in my most valuable asset, my portfolio? That was really the birth of the micro-family office, was the realization that I could take my current skill set as an executive in tech and I could map it over into managing my wealth and I could get massive results. And today, since August of 2022, I have been the CEO of my micro-family office. That's been my main job. And I'll tell you, it's the best job I've ever had. It's generational, it's impact, it's unlocked the lifestyle that I really want. In today's episode, I'm gonna break down how you can map your skills as a technology executive to be the CEO of your micro-family office. Let's dig in. Welcome to Managing Tech Millions. I'm your host, Christopher Nelson. I'm excited about this episode today, where I am going to give you the 6 traits that you already have as a technology executive that you can use to be the CEO of your micro-family office. That's what we're going to do today. Welcome back. This is the Foundation series. This is the 6th episode where we are giving you the foundation that you need to become the executive of your micro-family office. We're teaching you about micro-family offices. We'll be teaching you about evergreen portfolios, about private equity income. There's a lot to come on this, so stick around. Today is important. It's also personal. It's personal because I think the first thing that we have to discuss is we got to talk about ego. Let's just talk about it. That, for many of us that get into technology executive positions, working in technology companies, our careers start ascending. We start generating a lot of income, whether that's salary or we also get a lot of equity compensation. It's really in those moments that we get tied to the income level. We also get tied to the title. It gets hard for us to think about what we would transition into. What would be some of the other opportunities that we would have? I know I was the same way. I know that for myself, when I got to August of 2022 and it was time for me to exit an executive role and run my micro-family office full time, I knew that I was walking away from a title that had defined me for years, a title that was tied to who I was. But instead of hanging on that, what I chose to do was transfer that and my abilities to a new title of micro-family office CEO of Nelson Family Incorporated. And what I have learned since then is that I would not trade the title or the money for the time that I've had with my sons, watching them grow and experience a lot of things in sports, in life, spending travel time together, a lot of one-on-one time together, and the same thing with my wife. I know that now when it comes to dinner time, I'm incredibly present. I am able to be afforded a lot of things. But in this conversation today, we're talking about a lot of abilities, but I don't want you to know that I haven't thought about the fact that there is, a big mental shift in the ability to hang up a title to transfer to this. Here's the good news. The good news is that this shift from being a technology executive to a portfolio CEO isn't a career move. It's a pivot, because you're using a lot of the skills and abilities that you already have today. You're just focusing them on managing your wealth, everything that you've built during your career, to unlock the lifestyle and to unlock a generational impact. Here are the 6 skills and abilities that you use today that map over to be the CEO of your micro-family office. Number 1, the visionary strategist. Number 2, the disciplined operator. Number 3, the data-driven decision maker. Number 4, the collaborative leader. Number 5, the adaptable learner. And number 6, the legacy architect. I'm going to walk you through each one of those and highlight how I know a lot of you are using some of these skills and abilities today, and how that maps over directly to your microfamily office. Because ultimately, what I'm trying to show you is that whatever you are emotionally attached to today at your job, you can actually find this role as the CEO of your microfamily office more fulfilling and give you more fulfillment in life than you ever did from your day job. Let's get into this. Okay, number one is a visionary strategist. You use this every day at work. Whether you're an individual contributor, whether you're a midline manager, whether you are a technology executive, or maybe you are some type of a principal software engineer, you're using strategy. Strategy is your ability to think 2 to 3 steps ahead, to do some planning, and more than anything, you're defining the definition of done. What does your end result look like? What are you looking for? This is arguably the most critical skill that you would use as the microfamily office CEO. Your job as the microfamily office CEO is to set the vision and to reverse engineer, create a strategy to get there. You know that in whatever type of work you're doing, even if it's in marketing or you're working in engineering, you generally have goals. You have a definition of done, then you reverse engineer, you put a project plan to get there. That is the same skill that you're using inside of a microfamily office. Now, the artifacts are a little bit different. You create your key statement that you're going to create that's incredibly personal. It's called the legacy statement. You're writing your legacy statement that then you go through a very systematic methodology to get to your investment thesis. Where do you need to invest? It's a very structured process that is very similar to a work breakdown structure. Again, different terms, different things. The skill maps over. So long-term thinking, the ability to set a vision and then back into it is key. And you get the opportunity to use that again. But what are the goals going to be? It's going to be to unlock the lifestyle you want, to get the freedom of time that you want, things that you're not going to unlock while you're working for somebody else. That's why this is so incredibly valuable. A vision for your wealth, what does that mean? People ask me that occasionally is, what does the vision mean? Well, a vision is something like, for me, when I said, I want to be out of my W-2 by the time my sons get to middle school so that I can be very available for them as they're on this journey from young boys to men. I want to be available to do things after school with them. I want to be able to drive them to sports. I want to be able to watch their sports activities and be involved and have time to talk, take coffees, one-on-one coffees with my 3 sons at different times. That was my vision, was this time freedom and freedom of purpose. What it unlocked for me is then I got very motivated to then create a platform to talk about how do I make my money work for me and how do I help other technology employees do the same thing. That's what a wealth vision looks like. And so when somebody is operating without a strategy, they're going to get the very opposite result. And I've seen this happen. When you don't have a strategy, then things are chaotic. Things don't always make sense. And what does this look like? It looks like somebody who has amassed a lot of wealth. They're tinkering with a few things. They've now stopped their W-2 job and they're very stressed. They're very unsure of what's going on. And I witnessed this with some friends who, a couple who walked away. They didn't structure their wealth as a business. They didn't really have a clear vision for what they wanted to do for it and what they wanted their money to do for them. What was the freedom they were really looking for? So for 3 years, they tried a lot of different things. They traveled to a lot of different places, but eventually they ended up going back to work. And not because they wanted to, but just because things weren't working. There was no vision. There was no strategy associated with this. This is so important. And this is exactly what we do inside of the Wealth Ops Way. It's a free workshop that I run every month. If you go to wealthops.live, you can go and apply. But in this workshop, what we do is we show you how do you need to ask yourself some big questions. One of the biggest questions is, if money was no object, what would be your purpose and where would you spend your time? Some big, meaty questions that you need to answer. But guess what? You have the skills and the abilities to be able to execute on that. But that's a big vision question that you do have to answer. But what I'm here to communicate today is you definitely have the skills to do it. What did that look like for me? I want to bring this to life. I want to show you what this looked like. Post IPO, I start figuring out private equity. I start making some investments. I'm still working full time. I'm treating my portfolio like a hobby. I'm just sort of doing it when I have time. I don't really have a clear vision for what I want. And what's happening? Nothing. I mean, I got some investments, some money's coming in. Things are okay, but it wasn't working for me because it didn't have a vision. I didn't have a vision for what I wanted it to do. So I sit down with my wife. We had learned this methodology of what they do in single family offices. We started applying it to ourselves. Let's write a legacy statement. Let's turn that into an investment thesis. All of a sudden we have clarity. The next thing you know, we are intentionally buying specific assets. We're intentionally deploying capital in a different direction. We are creating systems and processes. And within 5 years, in 2019, all of a sudden I'm taking a sabbatical. I took 9 months off to be able to figure out, okay, is this machine working for me? No, it's not. I now, with intention, went back, worked for GitLab for another 2 years, took it through another IPO, got some more gold coins off the table to put into the microfamily office. And now it works. That's what it looks like when you have a clear strategy and vision. You are executing to a plan and you're reverse engineering to know how to get there. So, number one, you're a visionary strategist. Unlock it. Unlock your vision. You know how to reverse engineer things. That's why they call it engineering. You're doing it all day long. You're an executive. You know how to execute and get your department moving forward, or your division, or your company. Do it for your family. Do it for your microfamily office. So the second is you're a disciplined operator. I know a few people, I know just a handful of people that have just phoned it in tech, have no structure, no systems, and they're doing okay. I'm not saying these people are thriving, but I definitely know some young engineers that are able to survive to the next day. But the people that do succeed in tech, they do have structure. They do not wing it. They have OKRs, objective and key results. They have a sprint methodology. They have an agile methodology. They have a way that they execute. And many people today have, I leverage time blocking, or I leverage the Trident method, the way to manage my time and my calendar. They have ways that they operate their day to day, their week to week, and the way that they have their team operate that allows them to win. And I will tell you that discipline in your microfamily office is critical. When you're able to apply discipline, discipline is going to be able to get you to multiply your gains, because it is discipline and focus on your business that is much more important than the one single investment that you make. If you're disciplined across all of it and you're actually create an operating structure that you're able to then cadence that you're executing month over month, quarter over quarter. And I'm not saying that this takes 40 hours a week. It does not. But you're then able to unlock the lifestyle with that discipline. You're going to use rhythms, the same rhythms that you've used today. You're going to map that over. So systems turn your finances from chaos into an ordered, structured system. And again, I want this to be personal. I want you to hear that what it looked like before was, hey, it's Sunday afternoon, honey. I think I'm going to, take some time, go to the coffee shop, review the investments, see where we're at. Hey, yeah, these are doing well. I read these reports. This looks great. I'm going to put that on the shelf, and maybe I'll get back to it in 6 weeks. Maybe I won't. And guess what? There was no vision. There was no strategy. So what was happening? Nothing. So what I'm saying is, like, my wealth was growing. Okay, yeah, we had a few more dollars in the bank, but it wasn't doing anything that was going to benefit me and unlock the lifestyle that I really wanted. Okay, now how does that look when you actually are a disciplined operator? Hey, honey, here's the business plan. I'm going to make sure that every Sunday afternoon I go and I make sure how am I going through the to-do list on moving our business plan forward for a microfamily office. I know that our goal is to get to $175,000 a year in revenue. So I am going to be looking at how our current investments are performing and where do we need to allocate capital next to keep achieving that goal. That's how that looks like. And I'm doing that weekly. And then monthly, hey, babe, let's take a half a day. If you want to come with me for the first half, I'll review where we are today. And then I will go and work on some of the to-dos myself. And then quarterly, it looks like, let's take 1 or 2 days. They can be sequential. They can be, spaced out over a couple of weekends. Let's do a deep dive, see what we're doing. What do we need to change to reach our goals? And guess what? In those meetings, we're then understanding how we're continuing to achieve our goals. Here is our quarterly revenue. That's usually when you're getting passive income or portfolio income from limited partner investments. It comes in quarterly, not monthly. So our quarterly income is increasing. Okay, where are we from our goal? It's very measured, very managed. That's what operating your portfolio like a business looks like. That's what it feels like. And what you're doing is then you're able to, just like in your business, when you're going in with your weekly meetings and your monthly meetings, and you're saying, where are we with our OKRs? How are we performing in our release cycle for the new product features? How are we doing with our bugs? Are we decreasing the amount of bugs delivered? You're reading out on all of those metrics and reports. We're doing the same thing in our business. This is what I'm saying. You're using this every day. And this is where Wealth Ops gives you the structure, so you don't have to invent the structure. You take those pieces and you create the business that you want. But this is where you already have the skills. I've only covered off on 2. We have 4 more to go. You already have the skills that you can go and run your microfamily office. I want to jump into number 3 here quickly. Number 3 is an easy one. It is the data-driven decision maker, right? We in technology make our decisions based on data. I hardly know anybody who runs their business by their gut anymore. It's really through data. This is also the same way when you're running your microfamily office. So let's think about some of the things that you do today, right? You use real numbers and clear metrics to guide your decisions, right? If you're looking at a net promoter score for customer success and you see that trending up and it's highlighting things that you're doing well, you're going to do more of that or more of things like that. The same thing as if you're tried a new development technique and it's creating a lot of bugs, you may pause on that. You may think, I won't do that. These are the same skills that you're going to use in your microfamily office, which is if you are measuring, how well certain investments are performing, you are then going to say those investments are performing well for my goals. I may then choose to invest more in that one. I may choose another one like it, but you're using data to drive all your decisions. So when you're managing your wealth, right, there's key numbers that matter, right? And so what this is you're looking at, depending on the category of investment, is it a growth investment? Is it an income investment or capital preservation? You want to know whether it's meeting its performance metrics. You're also going to look at other metrics inside of your business as well. You're going to be looking at your marginal tax rate. How many dollars do I actually take home? There's really a handful of a handful of measures that you use, but it's the same thing as you're going to say, here is the metric that I want to measure. And then monthly, quarterly, annually, you're understanding how you're tracking to it. It's really straightforward. So the effect that it had on us is when I went from measuring nothing, I'm just managing some investments. And honestly, was I measuring something? Yes, I was measuring like the growth of my stock portfolio. I was measuring that I was getting some income. But how things changed for me when all of a sudden I started measuring it is when you have a clear goal of, I want $175,000 a year in passive income, which is going to be my total gross revenue from my portfolio in a year. I'm then able to track month over month, quarter over quarter, how am I doing to that revenue number? Becomes pretty clear. And then I'm able to understand, how do I need the performance of each of my investments needs to meet its criteria. If I'm blending a 12% cash on cash return, which is, that 12% is I'm expecting 12% of the original invested amount. So $100,000, I'm expecting $12,000 a year from that investment. How well is that individual investment performing to contribute to the overall number? Those are my metrics. The more I started measuring those, I started understanding what were the investments that I needed to grow to that number of 175 and maintain it. Those were the key numbers that were allowing me to ultimately drive my business. This is what you use every single day. So this is how a CEO of your microfamily office, you're leveraging the same things. And so I do want to take a moment. I do want to talk about the fact that we do run monthly the Wealth Ops Way. The Wealth Ops Way is where you get an opportunity to come in and walk through the architect phase in a 2-day masterclass. If you go to wealthops.live, you can go and make an application, and there you can start getting a flavor for what we do. But this is where Wealth Ops truly is an out-of-the-box process and system to architect, build, and grow your microfamily office. And in that session, we dig into some of these metrics. I don't want to get into too much detail here because the purpose of this is really to show you that you leverage data every day at work. If you understand the key metrics that it takes to run your microfamily office, you can leverage the same skill. The other one, let's move on to number 4 now. Number 4 is collaborative leader. In technology, we collaborate every single day. Even if you're in the dev team, you may have to be working with site reliability engineering. You may have to work with the quality assurance team. You're working with other teams to get your work done. You know, marketing is going to work with product. Sales is going to work with marketing. Finance is going to work with everybody, right? So we're all working across these collaborative teams. And then for you as a manager, as somebody who is assembling and driving teams, you want to be able to architect and pull together the right people that are executing your vision. This is the same skill that it takes when you're running a microfamily office, right? Running a microfamily office, again, is not a DIY. You're not doing it by yourself. Why is that? Well, let's again map it over to your team. If you were a engineering team lead, would you be doing all of the project planning, doing all the sprint planning, all of the coding? No, you wouldn't, because then why would you need a team? You'd just be an individual contributor and you would have no team and you'd just do everything. But then you also realize that for you to scale as a manager, you have specialized team members that when they're excellent at what they do, you're able to then be able to complete your vision on time, on budget. You're able to meet and beat your goals. It's the same way running a microfamily office. You need to go out and recruit tax strategist who is going to help you achieve your tax goals, where you can overall lower your tax burden, who is going to be your estate planner so that you are structuring everything in a way so that tax efficiently it's going to the next generation. What is going to be your team or technology that's going to help you with charitable giving? All of these things go into creating your team. And the more efficient your team is, the more efficient you are. Now, how does this look in the real world? I will tell you that for myself, as I started growing my microfamily office, one of the things that I held on to for a long time that I think many people do is the bookkeeping. I wanted to do the bookkeeping. I felt like, outsourcing that was, I was paying too much money. I could easily do it myself. What I didn't realize is that I was giving precious time to something that wasn't in my zone of genius. I didn't really enjoy the bookkeeping. I enjoyed the reports. I enjoyed the analytics when I was done, but doing the bookkeeping, I found that really boring. So eventually when I outsourced all my bookkeeping, even personal stuff on QuickBooks, having a balance sheet and a P&L to a team, and now I focus on getting the reports every single month and looking those and analyzing those every month, every quarter. I get excited about seeing the results, seeing where we're going. And that's me leveraging a collaborative team, moving people to their zones of genius so that then I can move to the things that I want to do. And this is where, as you're running your microfamily office, you get the opportunity to say, where do you want to spend your time? Where do you want to spend your time to move the team forward? I choose to spend my time more on the wealth management. I love to manage my own investments directly. I want to reduce the amount of time that I spend on business operations. I want to make that as efficient as possible. This is, again, all part of the process of how do you analyze and understand how do you want to construct your microfamily office. This is all part of the Wealth Ops design. Collaboration will ultimately help you reduce risk and move and create a business that you love, that gives you the lifestyle that you want. So being a collaborative leader is number 4. Now we're getting down to the last 2. Let's jump on to number 5. Okay, we're at number 5, and this should resonate with everyone. Should resonate with everyone. That's a bold statement. I get it. But in tech, you have to be an adaptable learner. You have to be able to embrace a growth mindset and be constantly learning. The technology companies, that I was working with in 2022 were much different than the ones I started with in 2001. They're completely different. I had an entirely different language. It had a lexicon that involved, DevOps and AI and cloud and things that weren't really around in 2001. It was completely different. And how did I achieve that is constantly learning, right? We all have a methodology of how do we study? How do we stay on top of things? We learn this process of iteration of, well, let me just get a first rep. What does that look like? Let me iterate that on that and do that better. We also learn how to take things like different learning sources, whether that's podcasts or audio books or YouTube videos or actual, books that are written, or maybe it's research papers. And now we can get a lot of that aggregated through Perplexity and a lot of different tools. We have methods to keep us learning. And so I don't know if I need to belabor this point that much, because I know that for you, when you're in technology and you're looking at new skills, or you're looking at a competitive market, or you're looking at new techniques of whether that's doing process analysis or whether that's, product management, you're in a state of constantly consuming information and learning. And that is the same way to running your microfamily office, where you want to be learning on whether that's new operations techniques, whether those are different investments, whether those are market conditions. But there is the same thing applies, is that the language changes, the different types of investments change. Some things stay the same, right? There's constant. I'm not trying to say it's all changing, but iteration and continuous learning is key to a long-term, wealth mindset. Is just continual learning, because you ultimately are your greatest asset. You're somebody that can now make a lot of money, but in this transition from money maker to money manager, you have to just continue learning in a different direction. So how do you accelerate? It's the same way. So one of the things for me that helped accelerate my learning inside of technology was peer groups. I got into a professional networking and peer group in 2010. That was something that then, as I was meeting peers and I got introduced to executives that were 1 or 2 levels above me, helped tremendously accelerate my career. I was able to move forward faster because I was learning very quickly, very iteratively, what worked, what didn't, from people who had been there and done that. That is the same skill that you can leverage in building and scaling your microfamily office. Learn from others. This is why I've started the Wealth Ops Collective, so that we can be, as microfamily office CEOs, managing our portfolios together, constantly learning from each other and understand what works, what doesn't, and who are the great partners to work with. What are some of the great investments that are out there? What are some of the bad ones? What's the list of things that we don't want to participate in, we don't want to do? All of that learning is incredibly valuable. And this is, again, another skill that you use in your day job that you can learn as the CEO of your microfamily office. Let's move to the last one. I think the last one is arguably the most powerful, and this is the legacy architect. And this may be the one that you're doing today at your job, but you haven't really thought about it in the same depth that you would, or that you continue to do for your microfamily office. We're all working to make an imprint. We want to make an imprint. We're working for companies because we want to impact that company, or we're working on a technology and we believe that this technology can change the world and create impact. Well, if you're doing that, what do you think the impact could be if you focused all of your skills and efforts on building a microfamily office that could impact your family, your loved ones, those that you're related to, or maybe it's nonprofits that you support, but you could impact that for generations. So the legacy architect is not, you're not just building for yourself, you're building to create an impact for future generations, whether that's impacting the science that is technology, or you can do that in your microfamily office at home. Being a legacy architect is really being very intentional about how you're thinking of the long term and how you're thinking about life after X. What is your life after the career? What does that look like? That could be your legacy depending on what you do. Do you have a purpose? Do you have a big problem that you want to solve? Those are very important questions to have. But many people I know, especially experienced executives, they will walk in day one. This is what I was taught. They'll walk into a role and they're already planning their exit. That's a success strategy. They're planning to leave. So how do I leave my business in a better state than I found it? How do I leave a successor to take over that business? It's the same thinking that you use inside of your microfamily office. How are you preparing your family for the succession? How are you having conversations about money and wealth and how you really want to impact other causes, other things with your money? How are you having those conversations over the dinner time, thinking about legacy? This is truly, something that we do at work that we may not always do at home. But again, the things apply. Is many times I know as a leader, I would be in the room having a conversation with my team and displaying to them how something that was happening in the company or something that we're building applied to the company's values. This is really important to the company because it applies to these values. I remember that one of the best things was when I worked at Splunk is one of our values was fun. And I remember I had the opportunity, I hosted in the summer, it was summer, fall, we called it the Sumall Family Picnic. I got to host this picnic. I got to say, this is because we value families coming together and we value fun. That's what that was. These are the types of things, right, that you can put your values into your microfamily office, right? And you can have a family board meeting as long as you take minutes, and those things can be tax deductible. You can have a tax deductible family reunion around a family board meeting. Yes, it's true. And so this is where legacy architect and understanding how you're building and growing with values, with the long term in mind. And so many people do that with their careers. So many people are trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to be known when I leave the industry? How am I going to be known when I transition out? Well, how are you going to be known when you leave a structured microfamily office to your family that can operate successfully for the next couple of generations? How will you be known? What will your legacy be? These are really, really important questions. And I think so many times we spend our time focusing on build the wealth, build, 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 build. But how do you actually want to structure and grow your microfamily office so that that can be a legacy that really impacts your family for multiple generations? Something that I think about. I think now is the time for you to start thinking about what are the things you want to put your fingerprints on that may outlive you, whether that's in your day job or whether that's your microfamily office. So those are the 6 that we covered. Let me drain those real quick. It was the visionary strategist, the disciplined operator, the data-driven decision maker, collaborative leader, adaptable learner, and then legacy architect. Those are the 6 of those. And so the key thing that I want you to take away is that you have and are using those abilities every single day. So the pivot to becoming the CEO of your microfamily office is exactly that. It's a pivot. It's just changing a little bit direction, changing the focus. Yes, there will be some new things to ramp up on, but it's not a leap. It's really just a pivot. It's just really just changing that sharp angle. And I want to also tease out that to do this well, right, the financial knowledge will come, but what's more important when you're making this is the operational discipline. You can take a lot of fundamental, basic financial knowledge and do incredibly well with operational discipline. And that is something that is arguably making you successful today in your day job. So that should be the first pivot that you move over. The other thing that people don't understand, this is misconceived, and I want you to see, like I intentionally articulated all of these abilities to map over, because more freedom requires more structure, not less. Now, I'm not saying that more freedom requires more time. That's not true. It just requires more structure. You need to have an operational cadence. You need to have data-driven decisions and metrics. You need to have a clear definition of done, a vision, strategy, right? So the more structure that you have, that is going to ultimately unlock more freedom. So if you are a technology executive and you are trying to wonder what's next, like I've built this, I'm on the verge of burnout, I don't know what to do next. I'm here to tell you that while you are in your job, you can successfully build and scale a microfamily office so that you can cut over and you can be the CEO of that microfamily office. And it's my personal mission to help people make that transition. My name is Christopher Nelson. I've built and run my own microfamily office, and I'm here to teach others to do the same. You can listen to this podcast. It's weekly at managingtechmillions.com. And we also produce a newsletter as well. We're continuing to produce more educational posts and things to show you how you can take what you've built so far, the skills, the wealth, and you can pivot that into a business that not just unlocks the lifestyle today, but also builds a generational legacy. We'll see you next week.